All right, welcome to our next orientation session. In this session, we will be discussing academic life at CSUSB. We'll be mainly talking about the colleges and the majors at the university, the academic advisors and what their role is for you as a student studying at the university, classroom culture and citing sources, things to note as you're going into your classrooms, either virtually or in person. And then also academic resources at the university for both students who will be on campus or virtual for this upcoming term. So first, I wanted to give you guys a breakdown of where your major lies within the colleges. So the colleges are groupings of majors that have similar topics. So for example, all of our STEM programs are in the College of Natural Sciences. So if you're in science, technology, mathematics, you will all be grouped there. And then you'll see like the College of Business, all the business majors are all grouped there together as well. So within your college, you will be working with faculty in your major, but you will also have academic leaders like a dean or a provost who will be overseeing the entire unit as well. And for our postgraduate students, you'll see here kind of the grouping of those colleges and where your program will lie within that. So it's good to kind of know where your program is within the context of the university here as well. So talking about academic advisors, your academic advisor will be a faculty member or a staff member in your major department. Typically for undergraduate students in your first 2 years, you're going to mainly be working with a professional staff member who will be advising you. And for upperclassmen and postgraduate students, a lot of times this will be a faculty member who teaches in your department. They are here to help guide you in registering for your classes and keeping you on track for your classes. They're a point of contact if you need any support, if you have any concerns about your scheduling and things like that, they will be your point person for that. If you have any concerns or struggles with your classes, they may have some tips and advice for you as you're going through those different schedules and classes. If you fall onto academic probation where your GPA goes into an area of concern with a potential for possible dismissal, if it doesn't improve, your academic advisor will also be there to kind of give you a game plan to try to improve that GPA. They'll help you with your registrations for all of your terms and then also help you with your graduation application. So this will be important in your last semester to make sure that you do your graduation application so we can get everything processed for your diploma and final transcripts at the time you finish your studies. So talking a little bit about U.S. professors and professors at CSUSB, they are professionals within their specific fields. You'll find for some of them, they've done extensive research. Others have had professional experience within their field. So you'll see a lot of different backgrounds from professors, but each of them bring a really unique perspective to your respective area of study. And there's certain expectations that they have when you come into their classrooms. You'll find in US classrooms, the professors are open for discussion in the classes and to take different opinions, to debate topics in class. A lot of professors, they encourage you to state your opinion and potentially disagree with classmates or even with the professor respectfully. Those kinds of conversations they find to be really productive to help the class as a whole learn and grow. They expect that you will participate in your class. They'll expect that your assignments are going to be completed on time. With your class, you'll be receiving a syllabus with your schedule of when everything is due. Time is a very valuable asset in US professor culture. And so they expect that things will be given to them in time so they can grade and correct things in time because everyone's time is their most valuable asset. When you go into your classroom, make sure that you greet your professor. Do ask your professor how they would like to be addressed. Some professors prefer to be addressed as Dr. Smith, for example, with their last name. Others may ask that you greet them by their first name. So do check with them and how they would like to be addressed, or they may say that in the first day of class. With your participation in class, a really big piece of this is to be there in class on time. For some professors, they may mark you off on points if you come in late. They'll kind of outline that in their syllabus as well. But time is a very important thing. And so you do want to make sure that you're there on time and you are participating for the duration of the class. If you have questions at any time during your classes, do ask those questions. If you're in person, you can raise your hands. If you're in a virtual setting, the professor will kind of outline how to best answer or ask questions either through a messenger or through a hand raising function in the lecture. And also make sure, whether you're virtual or in person, to turn off your cell phone in your class. Put that phone away, don't leave it on your desk. It's just a sign of respect that you're valuing the insight in the lecture that you're receiving from your professor. So as we talked a little bit about with classroom culture in the US, it's very focused on participation, and whether you're in person or virtual, that participation is going to be expected, but may show up in different kinds of ways. So if you're virtual, they may expect that you'll be in a live lecture with the professor and that you'll be sending in questions as the discussion is going on. They may have breakout rooms where you'll go into small group discussions with classmates. Do make sure that you're participating in that, because your professor could jump in at any time and see how the discussion is going. If you're in a class that doesn't have some kind of a live function, you'll most likely have a chat room where you'll be chatting about different things that are happening in the lecture or in the readings. And so do make sure that you are contributing in that area as well. If you're in person, a lot of times this will be in class discussions that you'll be having or conversations with the professor during the lecture. So every class will be structured a little differently, and all of that will be outlined in your syllabus. Within the syllabus, you'll also see that your grades will be a combination of that participation as well as projects and exams. So in the US, for many different fields of study, you'll see that combination of both projects that you'll be completing ahead of time as well as exams that you'll be doing in person. Some classes might be a little more focused on one than the other, but it's just something to keep in mind in how the classes will be structured. When you come into class, be prepared to discuss any topic that is kind of on the schedule for the day. So if there were readings that were expected beforehand, make sure that you get those done. Be prepared to offer an opinion from those readings or any other type of coursework that you were expected to complete beforehand. When you're in the class, make sure that you're asking questions about the subject. If there's anything that you need clarification on, if there's anything you need for your professor to repeat, or if you need them to slow down on a specific area of what they're discussing and break it down a little bit more for you. Professors want to see that their students are engaged, and if you're asking them to help clarify an area, that shows them that you really want to understand whatever topic you're discussing at that time. So don't be afraid to ask those types of questions. If you have other questions that you want to discuss with your professor outside of class, if there's something that you really need them to help clarify, but you don't want to take up too much time in the class, do talk to your professor about their office hours. All professors, whether they're in person or virtual, are holding live time virtually for students. So that way, if you need to ask a question about an assignment or about a topic that was discussed in class, that you would have the opportunity to meet with them outside of class. So do ask them when those hours will take place. And if you have questions, feel free to visit them then. And then also you can email them if you have any questions that you can't get to them during their office hours or during class. When citing sources for these projects and these papers that you'll be completing in your coursework, you do want to make sure that you're crediting all sources that you're using in these different areas and using the proper citation that the professor wants. So some professors are very specific that they wanted MLA or APA style citation. You'll be able to find out that from the professor on your first day of class, or it may be outlined in your syllabus. If they don't outline it, you can ask them if they have a preference. If they don't have a preference, then use whatever you're comfortable with. When utilizing campus resources, we do encourage students to familiarize yourself with our writing lab and our library. We'll talk a little bit more about them in just a couple minutes for guidance when you're writing a paper, especially if you're having to use a citation or if you're working within a subject area that you're not as familiar with. They're a really good resource to help make sure that everything is documented properly. And then lastly, make sure that you do not plagiarize at any time during any paper or presentation or other types of activities in your classroom. So some of the common citation styles and common subject areas that you typically see these citations, you'll see APA is used commonly in education, psychology, and the sciences. MLA, you see a lot in the humanities. So in like the expressive arts like English and the fine arts and stuff like that, you sometimes will see that MLA. And then Chicago style, this is more common with business history and then the fine arts as well. But you do see variances. Some classes and professors prefer a certain citation over another, so do check and clarify. So talking a little bit about plagiarism, plagiarism is just copying someone else's work and ideas and not properly citing and giving them that credit. Examples of what this will look like is if you took a paper from an internet source and copied it and pasted your name on the top of the paper and turned it in as if it was your own. Copying certain words or ideas from someone else without giving them credit. So if it's something that you've learned from someone else, you do need to document that this person was the person who expressed this idea and this is the person that you found that idea. Or copying so many words or ideas from a source that the ideas are there, but it's not outlined exactly the way that the person had expressed it, but at the same time, it is their idea. So whether you are copying just a couple of words or one word of a concept from someone, you do need to make sure that you're crediting them if that is something that you had learned directly from them. So a couple of types of plagiarism, and these are just some examples of how this also may appear. That global plagiarism is taking everything and copying it and putting your name up at the top, whereas you might see something like self-plagiarism, where you're recycling ideas that you had used from a previous paper into a new paper rather than developing a whole new paper for that specific assignment. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different ways that this can be expressed. And as I said before, our writing lab at the campus is a really great resource to have somebody else look over your paper and outline any concerns that may be considered a violation of plagiarism, just to make sure that everything that you submit properly documents where all of that information came from. So a couple of academic resources on campus, and we'll talk a little bit about how these resources will play out both in person or virtually at this time. The Center for International Studies and Programs will be your primary source for any questions you may have about your immigration status, academics, personal questions, or advising. So many of our advisors came to the US as international students or studied abroad as international students themselves. So if you have questions about your visa, if you are here in the US, or if you are, at home virtually for this semester, if you have questions about what this adjustment will look like when you do come to the US to start your studies on campus, and how, what culture shifts to expect and things like that, there'll be a really good resource for you throughout your studies. The Student Mentoring Program is a program that partners you with a current CSUSB student who is there to help support you in your first year at the campus. So these ambassadors are students who have gone through that first year of study at the university, and they come back and want to be a guide for you as you're adjusting to the campus. So whether you're in person and you're looking for someone who will be able to help show you around campus and help answer any questions you might have about where to get information. Or if you're virtual and you'd like to connect with somebody who can help you as you anticipate coming to campus and what that experience is going to look like, this is a really good program for you. Supplemental instruction is a program that helps partner small groups of students who are in the same class, maybe in different sections of the class, but all covering the same subject. And it gives them a place where they can meet together, study together, review course material together. So this is a really good program if you're in a class that maybe you're not as familiar with the subject area, or if you just want to connect with other students who are going through the class, it's a really good way to study together. The CSUSB Writing Center is a resource for you for any citation formatting and any questions about writing. So writing style, making sure that the paper is sticking true to the prompt that has been given to you by your professor. We recommend that students, when they use the Writing Center, make sure that you're submitting work a week or to 2 weeks in advance before it's due to the Writing Center so they have enough time to review it. Don't send it in the day before to the Writing Center to review before you have to turn in your paper. The Writing Center is working virtually currently, so you'll find on the CSUSB website, if you go to the Writing Center's webpage, the information on how to submit any writing materials to them to review and to give feedback on. The tutoring office offers free tutoring for students in undergraduate studies in some of the kind of general subject areas for specific majors. So you'll see there the list of the majors where you'll find some subjects that will have tutoring. They are currently tutoring virtually as well. So if you'd like to sign up for tutoring on your specific course, you can find the information on how to register for that on the Coyote Plus website. The campus library is also currently working primarily in a virtual format. You'll find on their website, if you go to the campus library's webpage, information on how to retrieve journals and articles for sources, information about how to find information at the campus, the types of inventories that we have, book databases that we have across the campus and across the state, as well as they'll have other sessions about study skills and how to be successful at a university in the US, things like that. They have different webinars that they're also currently offering. So you can find a lot of really good information about the type of material you can utilize for your research, as well as how to best complete those types of research projects from the research assistants that we have in the library. So a couple of other tips for your first semester. These are just some things that students have said have helped them succeed as they get started in their US studies, whether you are virtual or in person. We'll kind of talk through these tips and how to best apply them. So the first big tip here is reading over your syllabus for each class in the first week. You'll receive a syllabus either on the program or the class website, or if you're meeting in person, they'll usually print off a copy of the syllabus and give it to you. We recommend that you read through everything on the syllabus. So what type of format do they want papers submitted? When are the major assignments due? How are these major assignments kind of outlined? Are they mainly tests or projects or participation points or things like that? When is everything due? How is everything going to be weighed? So are the exams more important in the overall grade, or are the projects more important? These are all really good things to know going into the class, so you best know how to study and prepare for each area of those pieces for your class. For all of those major assignments or exams, make sure that you put that all in a calendar. So whether you have an old-fashioned paper planner where you write the dates on each day in the calendar, or if you put alerts in your phone for those different assignments virtually, it just depends on what works best for you. Some students will put alerts in their phones a week in advance before assignments are due, so that way they can make sure that they have everything done in time and they have enough time to look over everything or get it to the writing center. Sitting in the front row, which for a student in person, that makes a lot of sense. You're right there in front and you're able to best engage with the professor and Sitting in that front row, you can't really hide behind anybody, and so you have to be, engaged in the class the whole time. In a virtual setting, you kind of want to metaphorically sit in that front row. So, um, if you're meeting over Zoom, making sure that you are um, talking during the class and participating in the chat or whatever else the professor wants to do during the lecture. If you're in breakout rooms, that you're kind of leading the discussions rather than kind of sitting back. You want to show that you are actively engaged and that you are, wanting to learn from the insight that the professor is giving to you. If you find that it would be helpful for you to review, you could ask your professor before the class begins if you can record a class, if you find that that might be helpful for you in your studies. So whether you're meeting in person and you have a voice recorder that you can use, or if you're over Zoom and you want to record the session live, do check with the professor ahead of time to make sure that that's okay. But that is something that some of our professors are comfortable with doing if it helps their students. Also, we find that many students say that it is helpful to make American friends in each of their classes, friends that they can, discuss notes with each other, compare what everyone took down from each of the classes and study together for exams, and also just to get a better understanding of how US classroom culture works and what to expect from these different lectures and things like that. Many US students have gone through the US education system their whole life, and so they're a bit more familiar with what to expect in each, kind of piece of their class culture. If you have any questions at any time, do meet with your professor during their office hours or arrange a time that you'd be able to meet with them. Like I said, professors in the US, they're very open to helping students, but they need to know that you need help. So make sure that you're very clear to them, of what questions you have so they can best assist you and make sure that you can succeed in their class. And should you have any questions as you get started in your coursework and get adjusted to the US if you are here on campus, do reach out to our team at the Center for International Studies and Programs. Our contact information is here. We're here to help and assist and get everything set for you so you are most successful in this first semester, whether you're virtual or here on campus.